Hi, this is Alexandra Kubabatu, and today we're going to cover how to give an effective presentation so that others take action. What we're going to cover today are three things. One, the mindset of effective public speakers. Two, how to build self-confidence. And three, simple guide on how to build your presentation. Public speaking is one of the greatest tools known to man. Speaking effectively has helped build empires and destroy regimes. It has helped build successful enterprises that have created hundreds, thousands, and collectively millions of jobs. Now let's start by asking ourselves the question, is public speaking for me? If you're in this room right now, the answer is yes. Public speaking is for everyone. Now, just to clarify, speaking is always done publicly in a professional setting. The only difference is the size of the group. Now, whether you're coaching a couple of members of your team or speaking to 2,000 in a stadium, it's always public. Chances are, in your current role, you're probably public speaking already and don't really know it. So we use the power of the spoken word in every part of our lives. We use it to bind ourselves to each other as in a marriage ceremony. When we say, I do, these words are both spiritually and legally binding. Then you have children. And the power of speech can encourage a young child to greatness or destroy their self-esteem for life. Your words become their inner voice. Think of words spoken to you as a child or adult. How have they affected who you are and what you've done with your life? As leaders, this is also true. The words you speak to those in your care have a profound effect on how they view themselves in relation to the company, how they perceive their job satisfaction, and ultimately, how they perform their jobs. You as a leader can use the power of speaking to increase your value in the company by embracing and developing the unique gift of speaking yourself. A study conducted by Ethos 3 documented that fear of public speaking, also known as glossophobia, cuts wages by 10% and inhibits promotions to management by 15%. Studies have documented that those who can verbally communicate effectively get paid more and hold more positions of influence. More so than your level of education, your ability to use the gift of speaking raises the ceiling of possibilities for your future. We are here today to learn how to improve this skill and leverage it in your current leadership position. Now, anybody can talk, but leaders learn to use the gift of speaking to better their lives and the lives of others. A long time ago, in the time of rotary phones and VHS tapes, I grew up as the shyest, quietest, most insecure and emotional little girl in grade school. I would sit in class and listen intently to everything my teacher said because I knew if I missed something or didn't understand, I would have to go outside my comfort zone and raise my hand to ask a question. And there was no way I was going to do that and bring attention to myself. Now, to make matters worse, I was raised by an emotionally and verbally abusive, narcissistic parent. I couldn't make a mistake without getting yelled at, humiliated, and made to feel this small and insignificant. I was constantly told that anything I said didn't matter and that I shouldn't trust myself or make decisions because I was too stupid to do anything right. I couldn't voice an opinion without having love withheld and punished with verbal abuse. Being raised to believe that this is what it meant to love and be loved, it was impossible for me to escape this so-called normal life. It was nothing less than my belief in God that pulled me out of that situation. I cannot begin to tell you in how many ways this affected me, but I will say that I know my story is not unique. We all have things we've experienced that tell us that what we say and do doesn't make an impact. I'm here to assure you that each and every one of you do make an incredible impact using the spoken word. You matter. Your words matter, and I'm here to help with some tips to make your gift of speaking even more powerful. Now let's get ready to take some notes. Everything we are learning today can be customized to any group size. So it's up to you to decide which of these elements you want to choose for your speaking according to who you're speaking with and what you want to accomplish. Now, I want to start with a concept called servant speakership. Servant speakership includes the attitudes and dispositions we need to be effective public speakers. The mindset of a public speaker is something to grow into, and once you know what these characteristics are and develop them within your personality, you will see that they will benefit you in all areas of your life. Now, servant speakership is a phrase that I totally made up, so don't try to Google it. It's not there. But it includes 3 things. 1, making rapport through service. 2, having positive energy. And 3, having the courage to embrace vulnerability. Now, I'm going to start with the first one, rapport through service. Tony Robbins says rapport is power. But what is rapport? Google says that it's a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. It's that connection between people that impels each involved to want to serve the other. A good example is when we're raising children. Parenting experts say that if you want your child to be obedient, you must first give them what they need. And what do children need? Of course, they need food, water, shelter, and equally important, they need your love, time, and attention in the way they understand it. In relationships between couples, how well would it work out if your beloved never made time for you? And when they did, it was only about what they wanted. But what happens when they make it all about you? You are more likely to want to make it all about them, because when you get what you need, you are then compelled to want to serve in return. How does this translate into public speaking? When you're preparing a talk, remember, it's not about you or the company or the job or even the clients. It's about whom you are speaking to. Give people what they need in a presentation in terms of understanding, empathy, the benefit of the doubt, encouragement, and they will give you their undivided attention, their loyalty, and the best they have to offer. Some say that you gain rapport through asking questions, then mirroring what they say. When I was a used car salesperson back in another life, we were trained to ask questions and be like, do you have children? And say like, yeah, me too. Or do you all like the Spurs? Hey, I love the Spurs too. Now, asking questions is a tool to gain rapport, but not the rapport builder itself. Questions are the tool you need to understand the other person, so you know how to give them what they need. It's rather simple. The attitude you need is seeking to serve the other and thinking to yourself, I want to help mi hermano or mi hermana be the best they can be. So what do they need on a professional level that I can give them? You must give first before you can receive. And when you give wholeheartedly the best of yourself, including your time, knowledge, understanding, and genuine encouragement. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is having positive energy. Something we don't consciously think about is the energy we put out every single day. We are all beings made of pure energy. Almost 99% of the mass of the human body is made up of 6 elements: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus, and only about 0.85% is composed of another 5 elements: potassium, sulfur, sodium, chlorine, and magnesium, according to Wikipedia. And we're actually microscopic particles of light molecules that are constantly emitting energy. The thing is, although we may not have 100% control over some of the things that happen to us, we do have 100% control over the energy we give off at any given time. Before we go into a meeting or get ready to walk into a room for a presentation, we must consciously decide the kind of energy we want to generate for that encounter. Close your eyes and see yourself walking into the room and decide what feeling you want to leave with the people who are there. Do you want the feeling in the room to be joyful or exciting, or a little of both? Do you want the discussion to be filled with hope and encouragement? All these feelings come from the spectrum of positive energy. And you know what? People love being around others who have high positive energy. Think of the last meeting you walked into. Was there positive energy, or was there an overall feeling of nervousness, uncertainty, or tension? You may ask yourself, why is this so important? It's important because the energy you transmit to others will find its way back to you like a boomerang. If you go into your next encounter with judgment, uncertainty, insecurity, or tension, guess what? Your colleagues will probably shut down mentally during the encounters with you and not be very receptive to anything you have to say. And they will probably also reflect the same tension, nervousness, and uncertainty you brought to the table. However, if you mentally prepare to be positive and upbeat because you know you're there to serve your fellow coworkers, you'll be more likely to receive the cooperation you need for your projects. Now, the third attitude for servant speakership that I want to talk about is having the courage to embrace vulnerability. Now, there is no doubt that it takes courage, raw courage, to be a good speaker. There's a risk in putting yourself out there and telling your story in front of dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of eyeballs. If you're in front of an audience often enough, I can guarantee you a few things. You will make friends and gain the respect of some people. Why? Because not everyone has the courage to become a speaker. And if you're a really great speaker, I can also guarantee you something else, that there will be a lot of people who will criticize you. Great speakers present ideas that are polarizing, get people to evaluate their ways of thinking, and perhaps make others uncomfortable with the stories that they tell. Now, here's a tip to help you deal with the fact that not everyone's going to love you, and that is this: don't take yourself too seriously. Be the first to laugh at yourself if you make a mistake. Rome wasn't built in a day, and your ability to speak out in public will get better every time you do it. If people love you, so what? You don't need anyone's permission to feel good about your accomplishment and about yourself. If people hate you, so what? Just do the job to inform and inspire to the best of your ability and leave it at that. Now, in this day and age where you can draw information from anywhere on the internet, you can Google any how-to video to do anything. No one has to listen to a speaker. But a how-to video doesn't always inspire and motivate people to take action when there wasn't that intention there to begin with. It's your life, your story that will touch the hearts and move the feet of people you are presenting to. You become vulnerable when you tell your story. The greatest gift that you can give to the person that you are speaking to is a validation and understanding when you communicate your life experiences and connect with them. The greatest gift that you have been given is the gift of your life. And that's the same gift that you can use to give back to others. Okay, so now we've talked about the 3 attitudes of servant speakership. Now I'm going to talk a bit about building confidence. Self-confidence is having the certainty and belief in your ability to figure things out. It doesn't mean you finally have all the answers and know what steps you need to reach your destination. It means moving forward in the face of uncertainty. It really is much like courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's taking the necessary steps in spite of fear. If you are a living, breathing person, you have confidence built inside of you. You may have an aversion to public speaking, but you may be totally confident in other areas of your life. Now, let me tell you about my first speaking gig. You see, as a kid, I would have never believed I'd speak in front of an audience. The very first time I had to speak in front of a group was about 25, probably almost 30 years ago. My mom was a Sunday school teacher and I was her assistant. She had to step out of the class for something urgent and I needed to take over. And there were about a dozen middle schoolers staring at me, waiting for me to say something. And I had a panic attack and I couldn't breathe. And then when I did have the courage to open my mouth, my voice was quivering and I thought I was gonna pass out. Then the most amazing thing happened. My mom walked back into the room a few minutes later and I was so relieved. About 4 years later, God placed a desire in my heart to teach Sunday school. I was still terrified to speak in front of a group, but my desire to help those children grow in their faith was greater than my fear. So I signed up, and I was placed in the classroom with almost 30 middle schoolers. And this time was different. In those 4 years, I believe God noticed my desire to do His will, even with all my failings and imperfections. He gave me the courage to take that first step, although I didn't know what I was going to do after that. I was struggling with my faith at the time, so I wasn't the best qualified person. But taking that step and moving forward was the training ground for what I do today as a public speaker. So with that, I'm going to present to you 4 things that you can do to build self-confidence that have helped me over the years. The first one is be and appreciate your authentic self. Look at yourself and really see who you are. Look at all your amazing qualities, imperfections, and quirks. If you have to, set up your phone and video record yourself doing stuff. See yourself through a different perspective. Then say, I'm not perfect and I may have a long way to go, but I accept myself. I was created to be unique, and who I am brings value into this world in a way that no one else can. Now, the second thing you can do to build self-confidence is to start your day with gratitude. After you practice appreciating yourself, practice appreciating everything and everyone around you. Having an attitude of gratitude changes you from the inside out. Tony Robbins says that when you are truly grateful, you leave no room for fear, worry, anger, sadness, or stress. It's great to keep a gratitude journal, to write in it daily. But whether or not you write it down, the important thing is to visualize that person, thing, or situation you're grateful for and actually feel the joy of gratitude. It's the feeling that changes the way your brain is wired and your entire physiology. The third key to building self-confidence is visualization. Most, if not all, of the great athletes practice visualization. Everything you are now is a result of the accumulated thoughts of your lifetime. The late Earl Nightingale says simply, we become what we think about. And if we think about all the things that can go wrong while public speaking, you will activate the sympathetic nervous system. That's the part of your brain that dishes out fearful fight or flight responses. This is where visualization is helpful. Here's an exercise. Picture yourself in front of an audience as you get ready to speak. Feel yourself in the large room and use all your senses. Think about what the room looks like, what it smells like, what are the sounds of people chattering, and so on. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between something real or something imagined. If you have a fear of public speaking, your heart rate may go up, your breathing will get faster, your blood pressure will rise, and you may start to sweat. At that very moment, take several deep breaths, about 3 to 4 deep breaths. This will change your physiology. Then begin to think of everything that can go wrong. Maybe you trip in front of everyone, you forget what you're going to say, the microphone doesn't work, or you see people's faces look bored or disinterested. Remember to breathe deeply while you're seeing all this in your mind. Then switch your thoughts and imagine everything going right. You're feeling confident and engaging, your voice is strong, people are laughing at your jokes and giving you great big claps. You feel yourself smiling with inner joy of your success. These good feelings activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for making your body feel at rest by lowering your blood pressure and relaxing your muscles. Now, holding both scenarios in your thoughts, choose the one with the outcome you want to experience and take 5 to 7 very deep breaths. Immerse yourself in all the joy and the positive feelings you get from a successful outcome. What you are doing is rewiring your brain and creating new neural pathways to change the chemistry within your own brain. Now your body may produce dopamine, serotonin, or oxytocin if you're feeling love. These are neurotransmitters that make you feel good and activate the motivational part of your brain to take action and achieve your goals. When you focus on the negative, you'll find yourself fearful, anxious, and procrastinating. Remember, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. Practicing this visualization every day will help you better manage the fearful emotions when it comes to public speaking or anything else in your life. Now, the fourth key to building self-confidence is practice, practice, practice. Competence builds confidence. And the more you practice, the easier it will get. Public speaking is a skill like riding a bike or walking. When you were babies, sitting in your walker didn't teach you to walk. It wasn't until your parents took you out of there and held your hand to help you take the first steps. But eventually, they had to let you go. And then you fell and you cried. Then you fell again. Maybe you got bumped or scratched on your knees. It hurt and you cried. Your parents didn't say, well, this little baby keeps falling and getting hurt. It doesn't seem like this walking thing is going to work out. So let's just keep him in his walker to keep him safe and, he'll just grow up like that. No. It doesn't work that way, and it's the same with public speaking. Practice builds competence. You can start by picking up your favorite book and reading it out loud in front of a mirror. Next, you can try writing a short paragraph, about 3 to 10 sentences, about something you love and feel passionate, and read that out loud in front of a mirror. The next step would be to read it in front of your family, friends, or co-workers. Finally, take the plunge and just do it. Schedule the seminar, schedule that public speaking event, and throw yourself at it. So let's say you want to take that step. You want to get in front of an audience and take the plunge. How do you put together that presentation outline? That's the next thing we're going to discuss. There are several ways to prepare a talk, but this is what I recommend if public speaking is new to you. First, write the whole thing out from beginning to end and read it repeatedly until you internalize it. When it's time to present your talk, take the written speech with you or put together an outline with your points. And if you have it memorized, present it by memory. So how do you write a presentation? Your talk needs to flow so that you have control over the listener's stream of consciousness and you have a plan as to where they're going on this journey with you. So I'm going to talk about 3 things. How to begin your presentation, the stuff that goes in between, and ending with an impact. Remember, in the first 10 seconds of your talk, your audience has already made a judgment about whether or not they will keep listening or mentally check out. So it's best to start with an intriguing story, anecdote, or a shocking fact, statistic. If you're not comfortable sharing your story, borrow someone else's story. After your attention-grabbing statements, clearly state your main idea. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is all the stuff that goes in between. The stuff in between are the points that will support your main idea. A good rule of thumb is that it takes about 10 minutes to present one point. Each point should contain a story or anecdote. Why is this important? Because learning happens in the context of a relationship. Right brain dominant people rely mostly on their feelings and intuition. Like I said earlier, anyone can Google how to do anything, but it is the stories that make heart-to-heart connections that compel people to take action. It's also a good idea to include more facts and statistics when making your points. This is a good idea because some people are more left brain thinkers, and using facts and statistics will appeal to their analytical and methodical side. Now, the last thing I'm going to discuss about building your presentation is ending with an impact. So you've taken your audience on a journey, and now you're looking to end it. Your last few words will linger in their minds more than anything else you've said thus far. What's the best way to conclude? This is where you will end with a summary of what you've covered and a call to action. You can summarize by naming each point. You can also tell another story that'll tie in all the points together. But the very last thing should be a call to action. If you want your audience to take a specific action, then you need to ask them to do it. During your talk, you should have broken barriers and misconceptions to help your audience open their minds to new possibilities. Your call to action is where you give your audience the next steps and encourage them to do something, such as putting into practice something they've learned, buying a product or service, or signing up for another session. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so today we covered these 3 important points when it comes to giving an effective presentation so that others take action. The first we talked about was having the mindset of effective public speakers. The second thing we discussed is how to build self-confidence. And the third was how to build your presentation. And I want to leave you with these tips that come from seasoned public speakers, so you don't have to take my word for it. Several seasoned public speakers were asked 2 things. What's the number 1 thing you do to prepare? And is there a secret to being confident? I'll start with what Tim Urban, from creator of Wait But Why TED Talk speaker, and what he said. For the question, what's the number 1 thing you do to prepare? He said, I just want to know my presentation really, really well. If I don't know which slide is coming next, it's impossible to be in command of the presentation and it loses its flow. It's important that I have the whole structure of the presentation in my head as I go. When he was asked, is there a secret to being confident? Tim Urban said, mostly just reps. I'm a little less terrified to speak every time I speak. And for me, it's all about feeling prepped. When I know my material down cold, it's much easier to relax and know it'll go well. If I'm still flipping through the presentation on my phone 5 minutes before I go on stage, it's much harder to feel confident. Also, a pre-speaking glass of wine never hurt anyone. Next tip was from Joe Polizzi, entrepreneur, author, founder of Content Marketing Institute. When he was asked, what's the number 1 thing you do to prepare? He said, ask the event team about the audience, who they are, what are they concerned about, what do they expect? When he was asked, is there a secret to being confident? He said, repetition. The best presentations are the ones where I don't have to guess at what slide comes next and where the jokes go. My best presentations are the ones I've done at least 25 times. Pick your best thing and keep working at it until it's perfect. Brian Balfour was also asked. He's the entrepreneur, founder, CEO of Reforge, writer at Co-Elevate. This is how he answered the question, what's the number 1 thing you do to prepare? And he said, remind myself to be over-enthusiastic. We tend to think we have more energy in our delivery than we actually do. You notice this when you watch a playback of speeches. So you have to overemphasize and be over-enthusiastic to get the type of energy across that makes a presentation engaging and interesting. And his secret to being confident is, he says, I think confidence stems from knowing the material well and having a presentation with substance. It depends on the audience, but audiences of professionals will forgive a ton of speaking mistakes if they learn something from the presentation. The cake is the content. The delivery is the icing. And then Aliyah Jasmine Savani, she's a television host producer, and she was asked the question, what's the number 1 thing you do to prepare? She says, research, research, research. There's nothing that irks me more than seeing a speaker on stage giving the same old sound bites that he or she gives to every crowd. I really try to understand the audience I'm speaking to each time, and what about my talk they will find the most valuable. Once I've identified that, I customize what I'm saying for the audience. For example, a group of professional women at executive levels in the workforce will take something completely different away from what I'm speaking about than a group of first-year university students. Apart from research, hydration is also an important pre-talk preparation. There's nothing worse than being on stage and having your lips stick to your gums because you didn't drink a glass of water. When she was asked, is there a secret to being confident? She said, my confidence comes from recognizing that what I'm saying is coming from a place of authenticity. When you're on a riser in front of bright lights and hundreds of faces staring at you, it's easy to get lost in the feeling of your accelerated heartbeat. I try to take deep breaths and remember that I'm sharing my genuine beliefs and giving a talk I truly believe is important and authentic. So there's nothing I can say that poses any risk, and that usually calms down my fears. At the risk of sounding like a hippie, closing my eyes and centering myself in my own truth is really the best way to get confident and own what I'm saying. So there you have it, folks. Here are tips from 3 seasoned professional speakers, and I hope that this talk has served you today. Thank you very much for your time and attention.